What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're going to be talking about the sneaky, subtle nerf to Rotos the Lost Groom that was added with this previous patch. Now, there was so much going on here, and I'm actually going to pull up the notes right here for us all. So let's scroll to the top here. There was a ton here. Yes, it's rather short in theory. However, people were waiting for this. There was, as we all know, tons of opinions about this, a lot of things that people didn't like, including myself. So this kind of stole the spotlight significantly on all of the new information that did in fact come out with this most recent patch notes update. Now, with that being said, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, and I doubt most people made it past about right here, you're going to find something pretty interesting here. It's right here. It says the value of shield buffs on Rotos the Lost Groom will be taken into account when his Spurn Oblivion passive skill triggers. Now, some people might have just looked at this and shrugged it off, saying, okay, that's cool. Some people, in my opinion, probably didn't even see this. But this is actually quite big, so let's go ahead and talk about that here today. Alright guys, so first, a little bit of background here, just in case you're not 100% familiar with Rotos the Lost Groom here. What are we talking about? We are talking about this passive here. Will decrease damage from enemy hits so that incoming damage from any single hit will not exceed 50% of this champion's max HP. Grants an extra turn if this damage reduction occurs. So Rotos is really good. This has been the key reason he's been really good. For, a few reasons. Yes, there's more than just this, but another part is the synergy with Sifi the Lost Bride. Decreases the damage taken from bosses by 15%, decreases damage taken from bosses by 30% if Sifi the Lost Bride is on the same exact team. So basically, what does this mean? Does this change anything for Rotos? And the answer is absolutely. So what I want to do is I want to show some content with Rotos and show some new ways that you're going to have to adjust significantly, because this does change quite a bit for this champion. So if you're not fully following along on what this all did, I'm going to break it down to you as best as I possibly can. So let's take my Rotos for example. We have 26.6 thousand damage. Before any of this change happened, Rotos the Lost Groom could have had 100,000 shield on him, equaling up to 126.627 thousand health. And as soon as a champion did half of his base health, it would proc his passive, giving him an extra turn, making shield sets and Chris stacking shield sets gigantic with Rotos. It would proc his passive so many times based on how big the shield was and how low the trigger mark had to be to proc it through the shield. In my opinion, this is a good change because it made no sense the current way it worked. It had just been around for so long that I don't really think people cared about this. I'm 99% sure the video I made when this fusion came out, however many years ago at this point, I did bring this up and it was pretty abusable with shields. Now it's completely different. So if you have 100,000 shield on Rotos and you have 26,000 health, you would have to do half of 126,000 damage to proc this guy's passive. This is huge, and this absolutely makes Rotos the Lost Groom worse in the arena, especially against some key teams here. Not only arena, you can definitely see how the viability of Rotos isn't going to go down necessarily, but he's not going to be as strong as he previous was for any type of Doom Tower bosses you were using this guy in, Ice Golem runs, so on and so forth. Now, the damage that is done to the champion is going to have to reflect any OP shields you put on this guy. So what are we going to do to kind of counteract this? It's pretty much counterproductive to what you would normally assume would happen from a team with Rotos on it. So I do have Sifi, so I would be foolish not to use the Sifi partner bonus between Sifi and 2 Rotos. On top of that, I'm electing to use Tormund the Cold here. So this is where things change a bit. You now want to use a shield set with very, very low health, making sure that the passive proc rate for Rotos the Lost Groom is as small as possible again. This is absolutely going to shake things up at the top of the arena, specifically against hegemon teams, and this is going to make people who do not adapt to this strategy be much more susceptible to losing to teams like Candrafin, who can in fact penetrate through this damage with the A2, get the extra turn if they kill someone, get that double hit from the A1, and they will wipe out Rotos teams a lot easier and a lot quicker than they were before. So this is a very important thing to notice and note on, and let's go ahead and jump right into some arena battles so we can properly showcase this. The hard part's going to be, of course, finding a team that isn't going to strip my buffs here, but it's also going to provide this team with a double hit. I'm thinking hopefully they don't get frozen. We're going to try this team out. Peril is a double hit ability, as well as the A2 or A3 from Mortu is also a double hit. Granted, he is weak affinity, so it's probably not going to do enough damage, but I still have a little bit of hope here. So let's start it on auto, put it on 1-time seed and see what happens here. Okay, we did get frozen on the champion we didn't want to, so this is going to proc it right off the bat here. This is fine. And this is just Rotos doing Rotos stuff at this point. So as we can see here, we took virtually no damage and we're still able to kind of, I guess, abuse by using really low shields the amount of damage it takes to actually proc all of this. Now, if we had had a gigantic shield, these guys wouldn't have gotten any turn whatsoever. So that's kind of the key thing here that you really want to look out for. And it is actually good. Maybe we'll get some more trial and error here as far as testing goes. And I guess the main question people have is, well, what if you just don't use shields anymore? That's where it gets a bit tricky. As you know, a double hit ability has always been able to two-shot a Rotos if you don't have a shield, so you definitely do still want a shield. Now, one thing you could do instead of using a shield set, use some type of divine set on Rotos himself that is going to be a very small shield, and it's going to protect him and keep his passive as viable as possible, making sure he can never get one shot on top of that. So there was just one example. Let's try to find a better team to pretty much better showcase what we are trying to here. We don't want to debuff a strip champion like Madame Ceres here. Let's just go ahead and refresh, see if we can find something interesting. Maybe this team with Takeover, although there isn't a double hit here. Blender teams don't really go well with Rotos. We do have this interesting team here with the Trunda. Trunda would be a perfect example. So let's hope this all works as intended and Trunda doesn't, for some reason, get that 3% chance to stun the target instead of the double hit here. So turn meter should be lowered here. Sir Nicholas uses the A2 ability, doesn't proc, this is the key here, doesn't proc Rotos extra turn. So now you can already see the effect of what's happening here today. Sir Nicholas did a ton of damage, but he did not do enough to proc even with the shield Rotos' passive. So if we are not careful here and everyone dies, it's possible that Trunda one-shots our whole team. Okay, Trunda decided to use the... Oh, she was provoked, so that was actually lucky here. If that didn't happen, we would have gotten one shot. I think Sifu would still survive, having that defense up and no defense down, but it's too early to tell. Let's see if Trunda gets a turn here. Extra turn did not proc, okay. Okay, easy one shot on the Rotos on the left with no shield. We did get the stun as I anticipated, so this was a perfect example of what this change did. That just changed everything for Rotos, making it much less strong than it was before. If I had previously stacked a very large shield on Tormund, that first Sir Nicholas A2 would have, without a doubt, procced Rotos the Lost Groom passive, and he would have started from there. Yes, we did still win the run, but it took significantly longer because we already adjusted to this strategy. And even though it still wasn't enough, this just goes to show you how much things actually changed here. Let's go ahead and try to find another example. Trunda is definitely going to be the ideal candidate here. Also, Trunda and Hegemon. This looks like a nuke Hegemon based on the crit rate being lead. I would be very shocked if this wasn't the case. So let's go ahead, 1-time speed once again, and see what actually happens here. Okay, so perfect example. I'm going to just take this off of auto here. CC Hegemon. Before this, based on how low Rotos base HP is, before we start using the A2, ramping it up to incredible numbers here, CC Hegemon, we're literally proccing Rotos because of how strange it worked with it only taking his health into consideration and not the 80,000 shield that was ridiculous on this champion. So like I said, in my opinion before, it was a little bit broken. This is just another perfect example of, had this been the original version, it's likely this would have changed things significantly here. So luckily we do have, unfortunately, a properly synergized team here with the provoke here. So maybe I did pick the wrong champion for this showcase. I was trying to show things off to make it look good, and I might have done too good of a job on building this team. Actually, this bottom team here has 2 AoE nukers, one with a double hit. We do have a chance of proccing if there is for some reason crit rate on Deacon. So let's go ahead and give this team a shot here. They should go first, perfect as expected. Now they lower our turn meter. There was a freeze. Didn't proc the passive once again. Rotos just naturally got a turn. Rotos naturally getting a turn here as well, using that A2, and unfortunately it looks like these champions are built a bit too slow. So one of the things that I did that I didn't mention before, and it's probably causing people some confusion, they might be thinking Rotos' passive is proccing. I actually increased the speed of all of my Rotos to Lost Groom to kind of compensate for this factor alone. So usually people run full damage, really slow Rotos, and they kind of bank on that passive proccing, giving him the extra turn. I went the opposite route. If you know how Rotos works, he does a ton of damage with very minimal gear based on his A3 and A2 interactions. So actually made them not insanely fast, but much faster than the average Rotos. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stats I'm using. So 196 speed here, and you have a broken set, but 183 speed. So nothing too crazy there now that I think about it. However, as I mentioned before, some people are running like 90 base speed plus 20 speed plus 30 speed, so their Rotos are significantly slower and they're just stacking full damage. Now what I personally found is you don't really need a ton of damage. These stats are not impressive, although I kind of just threw this on for a showcase to kind of equal out. Since we are in gold 4, we're not in platinum, it's nowhere near reset, so even if we were in platinum, the teams we would find would be questionable at best, and this actually might be a great team. The Great Alex, so perfect. No defense down, no debuff strip here, so we should have our shields for Trunda's A2 ability, and we'll get to see the perfect synergy happening here today. So if everything goes well and works properly, Trunda's going to do a ton of damage and not stun anyone, hopefully. And okay, so hard-hitting Trunda, the shield was enough to save them. Proc Rotos passive here, as we can see them popping off already. And beautiful. So this is going to be probably one of the better examples of what was changed for Rotos, and now that I think about it, I probably should have showed this failing a lot more. This pretty much looks the same as what Rotos was capable of doing before, but since I kind of compensated for the shield bonus, as we already mentioned in this video, things pretty much look the same. So yeah, now that I think about it, probably poor move, Mr. MurderInc. I should have showed a huge shield and how nothing really paid off here. The passive wouldn't be proccing, these champions wouldn't be dying, and that lone Trunda there probably had a really good shot at killing the entire team because Rotos wasn't getting a turn to kill them immediately. So with that being said, this is probably just going to be a long and drawn out match. Let's put this on 2x speed. Try to get this done and over with rather quickly here. Hopefully we target the Arbiter, and she's probably going to be using her revive next, and of course we didn't. Full revive to be expected. Interesting that that freeze and Arbiter kind of appeared on, then just went off randomly. Solid 10,000 hit from Sifi's A1. Balanced for sure. We all know how she's a fantastic champion. Okay, a minute and 40-second win. Of course, it was on 2x speed for a bit, but I'm really not happy with this. I really would like to find some type of nuke hegemon to see if we can show the true potential of what we're talking about here. And maybe this is going to be the answer. Parabellum using Solus as the nuker. So hopefully, if this comes down to it, this is exactly what we're going to be looking for here. There's that first hit. And the second hit, of course, countering and proccing the passive. Did it proc it on both? Yes, it did. Okay, perfect. Both passives were procced. The first one from Torment wasn't procced. Once again, another situation where that was very likely to proc if all of these changes didn't happen for Rotos. So pretty much, what do you guys think of this? If you guys are avid Rotos users, or filthy Rotos users, as a lot of top arena players like to say, because it is kind of a cheesy team to use. So what do you guys think about this? How much is this going to affect the pretty much outcome of top arena? How much is this going to affect people not in top arena who, let's say, are using it in gold 4 like I currently am here, or your dungeon runs? Let me know what you guys notice. If you guys notice something right away, go ahead, try lowering those shield and see if you have better success with what I've just told you here today. Alright guys, that is going to conclude my video today on Rotos, his kind of a sneak nerf. Give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. Don't forget, if you enjoy this content, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.